community of members, coaches, and professionals working as a team of like-minded individuals in constant pursuit, connecting this exclusive group with the tools and resources they require to live a high-performance lifestyle, conquering what life has thrown at them. We are living the fit life. Welcome to Living the Fit Life Podcast, episode 58. This is the CrossFit Debrief with Ian Childs. What a weekend, buddy. What a weekend.
What a weekend. I just loved it. The whole weekend. I feel like in the past, I've always kept up with the events through the weekend, but I felt like it was must-watch TV because you did not know what was going to happen. The tests were challenging and pushing these guys. I loved it.
Yeah, love it. Must watch TV, 100%. I think I heard that from a few different people I've talked to. Like, they if they missed the event because they were busy, they didn't want to check the leaderboard, they didn't want to check their messages, wanted to go back and watch it for themselves. They see it out. So, must watch TV for any sort of fitness enthusiast. Doesn't even matter. Like, you don't even need to be CrossFit. I had a few friends that are on the outskirts of CrossFit, and they were still somewhat interested, maybe because of the mixed modal sort of fitness test with the endurance stuff, and they had other strongman stuff. So I think it was a pretty cool, entertaining weekend for sure.
Absolutely. I think it was great for the sport. I think it really broadened everything out a little bit, which was going to grab some more interest from other places.
Yeah. And yeah, looking at our list, I hope that most people listening to this listen to our hot take episodes for female and men. I think we were pretty close on a few. We had a few hot takes that are a little bit out there, but I think we nailed a few.
I think we definitely nailed a few. And like going over our top 10s even, I think for both of us, we had 6 or 7 of the 10 athletes. They might not have been in the right order, but we knew who was going to kind of be there. But even within the athletes that were right, it was just the way that some of them got to these positions that were just wild. And we'll talk about Laura Horvath later, but she looked out of it until Saturday afternoon. Like, it looked like it was over for her. And then you see where she finished. Yeah, like, it was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, were you at the start of the weekend, like, freaking out, like, what is this leaderboard? Because, like, for, I would say, half of the competition, the leaderboard was strange or, like, really, really different from previous years.
Yeah. I think I was genuinely excited because of Emma. Like, I didn't think Emma was going to be in a podium spot. And then watching her up until Saturday being in third, I thought was incredible. And just exciting for us locally as well. It was just great shout out to Emma. She was unbelievable. So that was exciting. And then you're like, oh, Horvath though in 12th or 13th at the time. And you didn't know when that was going to happen. But the fact that she still found a way to be there, she was amazing. On Saturday night and Sunday, she was unbelievable.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it, like, I mean, yeah, I don't know how to steer this conversation, but I think we can just get into it really. Cause, like, I think the order of events was interesting. Because I think the order of the events dictated the leaderboard a little bit, because I think at the start, the leaderboard looked a little different than what we're used to. There wasn't very much CrossFit specific. There was a lot of specialty events and a bit more endurance events. There's a lot of different things. And then later in the week, it became more heavy, right, which leverages some of the athletes. And so it was interesting to see a different schedule of events. And I think Boz did that purposely to be different from Castro in previous years.
I think if he did do it purposely, that was really cool, because there was just a shakeup on the leaderboards because of how he formatted the weekend, and how I feel bad for Haley Adams. I was really excited for Haley Adams where she was. She looked like she was in a great spot. And then the heavy stuff again got in her way. So, but everything else up to that point, we talked in the last episodes about if the events broke for certain athletes, that they would have a better chance. And I felt when the weekend started, I was like, this is Haley's shot for sure. But yeah, anyway, I think we should go right into the females first, because that's obviously what we're talking mostly about.
All right. Yeah. Well, I mean, Tia, again, her 6th, I think some people might have had doubts. In my opinion, I was never in doubt. I always felt, even though she wasn't leading in the first day or so, which was a little strange for some people, I think it was a little strange just to not see it. But it goes back to the order of events, because I think if you flip Sunday and Wednesday, she's first all weekend long, Laura's second, and they're duking it out, and the storyline is completely different. Mm-hmm. But, like, Tia dominated. She only took 2 event wins, which, I mean, I guess is a little bit subpar for her, but I don't think she was out of the top 5 much at all. I think her biggest finish, which was that interesting skill workout where she tripped up on a single under.
Oh yeah.
On the 74th rep of 75, and she had to start again, so she took 23rd. But outside of that, like, she was consistent as always.
Yep.
She basically made it interesting for us because she tripped up on a single under.
Right. You know what?
But she dominated, as always.
She did, but you almost for the first time ever sensed panic in her. It was after the second day they interviewed her, and Tia, who's usually pretty like, all the girls are doing great, I'm really proud of everyone. She was a bit spicy in the interview, and you could tell she was ready for a different weekend than she'd ever experienced. And I think we got that from her. But I think to say that there wasn't a little bit of doubt in her mind would have been an understatement. I think she definitely had some fear when she's like, who are these other people who are taking me down? And why am I faltering like I am so early?
Yeah, she was spicy for sure. And I didn't, it seemed weird because I didn't like the way she was handling herself the first few days, because like usually she'd put out like some sort of video on YouTube of the day. They put Instagram posts. There was like there's nothing from her team.
Yeah.
She was basically like, as soon as the event was done, she was off the floor.
Yeah.
And then she sort of throws the F-bomb down to kind of just clarify war. But like, and then after she gets the leader jersey, guess what she's doing? She's high-fiving people. She's signing autographs. She's doing all the stuff that we're normally used to. But when she wasn't wearing that jersey, she looks snappy.
Yeah, she did not look like someone who's going to be approachable for the new people being like, hey, where do I go after the event? She was not going to be helping anybody out. That was for sure. And it was so different. And I think you said you never doubted it. I had a moment where I was like, she might not win. There might be a chance that she's second, but I just didn't. It was just surprising, her reaction. And I felt like you could almost sense her panic, which then it made me think maybe something's going on that we don't know about,
The programming, the timing, and the different athletes. Like overall this year, there's so many different event winners. Like there wasn't one like Matt Fraser dominating. There wasn't like Tia only won 2 events. Laura won 2 events. Like winning 2 events is not a huge thing for Tia. Like she usually has like 5 or 6, right? So like the diversity of different individual athletes competing against her and taking the win was really cool. It almost looked like the ladies versus Tia.
I'm looking back at some of our hot takes, and one of our hot takes was Tia will only win 1 or 2 events and other stars will dominate. And that is exactly what happened. It was amazing. It was better for the weekend, I think, because every event, someone else was going to get a moment. And I think it's so valuable, especially with the opportunities for sponsorship money for these guys for winning events. That it's like when you watch the Tour de France, there's always a guy who shoots himself to the front of the pack who's not going to win because he needs his time on TV for his sponsorships. And it's the same with these guys. You're giving these other athletes an opportunity to have that moment on TV, to be interviewed after the event, and share some love with all the people in their system. I think it was so cool that it was a variety of winners.
Yeah, and I think I mean, we also talked about the rookies. We also talked about like the young generation coming in, and it's like, I mean, I think that wasn't no hot take. I think everyone expected the young guns to kind of come in, because I mean, the sport is getting younger. Like Cara Saunders is one of the oldest. Tia's not old, but she's up there. But yeah, like Emma, Mal, Alexis Raptis gets a win. Like even this, like Mal and Emma, and even Haley. I mean, everyone doesn't really talk about Haley because she's been there a few years, but like those 3 athletes, if Tia retires, as it seems like she is, or she said, she didn't say she is, but someone else said she is. But if you look at Haley, Mal, and Emma, we are basically looking at the 3 ladies going head to head for the next 5-10 years.
Yeah. And you know what? As we were talking about Mal actually was so impressive. And I think the reason I loved her performance was it wasn't flashy. It wasn't showy. She just was always there. And even in events, when the sandbags got heavy and like the events got really heavy implements, I thought she may fall by the wayside a little bit, kind of like we saw Emma look like she kind of the weekend got her down and the weight started getting her down. But Mal just showing her brand, the hard work pays off brand, and just the grittiness And the fact
No,
that
she wasn't.
She was very impressive. And I don't even think she was talked that much about the whole games. As soon as Tia got the leader's jersey, it was all the Tia story. And to be honest, before that, the story was Emma Lawson. Like, she was getting a lot of time because she was there, and Mal was just not getting a lot of coverage.
Yeah, because I think they built her up so much that they expected her to come second, but it didn't feel like it was like a head-to-head Tia versus Mal thing. No. It definitely felt like Mal and Emma are grouped together with Haley and Gabby and Laura, as in like the next gen. We're going to take care of like the sport after Tia's gone, but we're still not going to be able to beat Tia. There's just, she's the GOAT, but we'll be happy to fight for first next year.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great battle next year for Emma, Mal. And honestly, this is one of my hot takes. Do we think Haley's going to stick with Rich? She's now had 3 seasons, I think, with Mayhem. She is a better athlete for it, but has she addressed her weaknesses enough over 3 years? Like, when you watch her run, she looks like a runner. When you watch her do any of the cardio stuff, she is unbelievable. But she was getting mangled by the heavy stuff again. I know Rich can't do anything about her slow build to strength, but she's now tried 3 years with them. And these athletes do change coaches. I think there might be a switch. I think she may jump from Mayhem. I don't know where she's going, but I feel like that's a possibility.
I mean, Mayhem is like the Empire. I don't know. I look at Haley, like she looked like she was a better runner. Like she's a great runner, and now this year, like she looked even better. Like she looks like, but like this is the thing. Like that last workout, the one with the really heavy front squats and deadlifts, like she couldn't. That would have been like a PR clean by like 25 pounds. I think Haley has hit her ceiling in strength. Like her body type isn't going to be a strong body type, right? Like Mal and Emma are built different than Haley, and Haley will always benefit from the endurance. I think the sport and the numbers, like the strong, heavy numbers, there's always going to be 2 or 3 events that require you to be strong, and I don't think Haley's ever going to win those. Can she still win the games without that? That's one of the questions, but you have to be somewhat strong. I just don't think she's got that, and she's ever going to get that. It's just, it's just not in the cards.
I was reading one thing that said, we say this because she has been here for so long, but she is 21 or 22. Like, these are prime strength building years. So there is a chance you might see it, but I agree. I think she did the best she could at striking when the iron was hot and took the events that she was supposed to take or be right by the top.
Yes.
I just felt
2 event wins, her first 2 event wins.
Yeah. It was actually, didn't you love that moment where they interviewed her after and said, so what's it going to feel like wearing the leader's jersey? And she's like, I literally haven't even thought about that. Yeah. That was great. You realize how young they are when they get these moments on camera and you get these real, genuine reactions. It's always awesome.
That's why I think like Laura, so obviously Laura at the start with the endurance, she came out hot with one bike event, but she sort of stumbled, but she ended up still top 5. Like she was pretty consistent, but then that handstand workout, she just got crushed, which again, it's just like going back to Haley, right? There's these athletes other than Tia don't have, like, most of them have 1 or 2 weaknesses, right? And usually there's an event that just takes that and you're just going to get crumbled. Someone like Emma we're not really sure what her weakness is yet. But like even Tia with overhead, some of the overhead stuff with the dips, like she seemed a little bit struggling in that. But like Laura has such a weakness with the handstands. It's unfortunate. But outside of that, like she just kept getting better as the week progressed. And that's probably just maturity and just like being there. And basically she's podium every time she's been at the games.
Yeah.
It's impressive.
That is impressive. I will say for Emma, if you listen to this, you were so great. My kids were instantly Emma fans because they knew she was from town and now want to meet Emma. And it's all, she's made a big impression on some young people in the region. I hope she realizes that. I don't know if it was the weekend got to her because did seem really long. It seemed longer this year than it has in previous years. But on the sandbag night, you saw a moment where she reached for her lower back. And after that moment, I felt like the air seemed to blow out of the balloon a little bit. And I would be interested to know if she tweaked anything. Because even the next day, when you watched her doing the cleans and the deadlifts, she actually struggled with the yoke, but the yoke was huge. Like a lot of athletes struggled with that yoke. But then when you watch her on the cleans and the deadlift, she was being very, very careful with everything, doing singles, stepping back, taking a break. And I was starting to wonder if maybe there was a little tweak that happened. But still, it just, she should be so proud of herself. It was an amazing weekend for her. It was so great watching.
Yes, an amazing weekend. And I think that also made it more exciting for us to watch too, with her like jolt up the leaderboard the first few days and like just coming out of nowhere, wearing the leader's jersey, a 17-year-old first, like that those first few days were really impressive.
Yeah.
But yes, they always talk about like the full test, right? And like the experienced athletes are always like, there's a ton of time left. There's a ton of events left. They always talk about, Sunday is like a whole nother level, right? And I think that's really it's just experience and just like longevity, right? Like that's a lot of fitness, and she's 17. Like if you put those heavy midline type workouts at the end of the day, they're going to crush a lot of people. So like her last 4 events were 15th, 10th, 33rd, and 24th. So like a completely different, if those events were the start, then she's at the bottom somewhere. She just climbs eventually, but she doesn't get the same attention. So like, I think she did amazing. Kudos to Emma and
Josh.
Yeah.
Who got her ready.
She's the future. I mean, she's 17, so she's going to get stronger in the next, every year she's going to get stronger, and she's going to be up there every single year. And she's such a great ambassador for the sport. So
absolutely. Awesome. I do want to switch over to someone you mentioned before, Gabby Magala. We knew that crew from Majorca, their little secret, Gabby Magala, Jacqueline Dahlstrom, Sola daughter, what's her name? Sola. I can't remember how to say her last name. Yeah. Those three, all three of them. Well, Gabby especially. I think Gabby is someone we're overlooking as a legitimate threat to be at the top. I think she looked amazing.
Overlooking, dude. I had huge expectations, and I was getting so frustrated because I'm like, where are you? Like, you're supposed to come here, and remember we talked about like the Euros taking over?
Yeah.
And she was like, her and Laura, in my opinion, were going to lead the charge. And like, I saw Laura kind of pick up some momentum. Gabby got an event win at the Capitol. I think it was Capitol, yeah.
Yeah.
But I was just like, man, I want so much. She got like a 27th and a 30th. I'm just like,
but when you see,
Gabby, let's go.
She was able to do everything. Like the way she handled the heavy implements, it would look like Laura Horvath, but in a smaller frame, right? But then you watch, she's agile enough to do some of the other things. I'm like, wow, she is going to be exciting, I think, over the next few years.
But yeah, I was hoping for a podium.
And I will take a moment to say, the Jacqueline Dahlstrom Saturday night sandbag, that was one of the most impressive physical feats I have ever watched. And when you watched her and Danny Spiegel sitting side by side on the bench waiting for the next bags, the actual difference in their size and stature was comical. It looked like there was TV camera tricks. And she was unbelievable. And watching all the other girls, when they kept doing shots of the other girls watching her, and they all were just astounded that this tiny little stick of dynamite continued to make her way through. It was awesome.
Yeah, they talked. I was listening to a podcast with Boz, and he was talking about the different body types and how they were, even like Nick Matthew, like he was quite successful versus like someone like Fikowski or Guy. But like, yeah, for sure. Like Danny, I mean, she got her moment. Like she's a fan favorite for sure. I know some people have different thoughts, but like she's a fan favorite for sure. And she brings a lot of life to the games, and she had her moment Saturday night. Like she made that look insanely easy. I think she could have went 2 more bags probably.
I think she could have competed with a bunch of the guys.
I think so too. It was impressive. And yeah, Dahlstrom, I mean, yeah, like she was lifting, it was over 100 pounds her body weight, or like 100 pounds her body weight.
Yeah, they said she's 64 kilos or something, and she was lifting 120 or so. It was just incredible.
It's nuts. Yeah, you expect that from Danny. Like she's that powerful, explosive athlete. But yeah, what did you think of that event, the sandbag event?
Honestly, that was one of my favorite moments. When I first heard it, I was like, sandbags? Really? How good is this going to be? this is getting into one of my other, I guess, like picking nits, if you want to talk about that, is I think they need to improve the watchability of this. They need to find a way where they have cameras on every athlete, and then you, the viewer, get to pick who you want to watch. Like imagine being able to pick 1, 2, 3, 4 athletes, and then you get little cameras on each of those people, because we got a lot of footage of Tia or whoever the leaders were, and then you might get a flash to someone else you want to watch. But in the sandbag, those first few rounds when they had 5 guys or 5 girls wide, they would zoom in and do like a close-up shot on the person in the middle, and you would just miss some of these lifts, right? So yeah, I was worried about the event. It didn't feel like it was going to be the same as a barbell, but when we got further and further into it, it was awesome. And when with the guys, when they rolled out the secret bag with the weight covered up on it, that was... Yeah. It was awesome.
What a moment.
Yeah, it was.
Place went nuts.
I was so impressed with the fact that it did hold up the excitement of last year's snatch event, because I was like, is this going to be as good? But it was.
Yeah. I didn't have any thoughts going into it, but then when it was happening, I was starting to worry, like, oh my God, there's going to be so many bad memes of this, because like some of those backbreakers, like hit, like someone like Brooke. I mean, Brooke Wells good for her. She crushed that event a year later after, being on that stage. But like some of those moments where she's got like a 200 plus sandbag on your back and she looks like her back is ready to snap. I'm like, oh my God, please let nothing happen. I'm just waiting for the internet trolls to be like, oh, no. But like, yeah, it was exciting. It's a Saturday night. I think it's just, one of those things. And then, those, we can flip to the men's side. Cause like I was excited, like honestly thought everything was like 320. And I was like, they need more bags. Like these guys are making this look easy. And it's like Fikowski, Hopper, Guy. I'm like, these guys aren't going to stop anytime soon. And then like Matthew keeps holding. I'm like, and then even Medeiros has such great technique. It was just so many of them were just doing so well. Please don't let this end with a tie. And they bring out that bag and it's just like, man, that just rocked.
I'm so surprised. So I actually rewatched that event, the last couple bags. And you see at 320, there was still a bunch of guys. 330, it was still like 8 or 9 guys. Where in the girls, it was down to the last kind of 3 or 4. It was down to the last 2 for the last couple of bags. But when they rolled that, so was that bag 350 and they just had it, or do we?
I think it was a 340 bag and they added more sand to make it 350. And that's why they sort of took the stuff off and just like marked it off.
Because as I'm watching it, a 10-pound jump, when you watch Guy the round before, he just launched the 340 onto his shoulder, looked easy. And you saw them all pick up this bag and it almost surprised them, and none of them could get. I was expecting at least one of those guys to pop it up.
I thought one would get it too. But Dan Bailey, he said it a lot of times on the broadcast. He was saying like every jump is significantly harder than you can imagine.
And how big?
And like that, how many did they do? That was like that's exhausting.
That was like 10 bags.
That looks so exhausting.
Yeah. And they were huge. Like just the sheer size, they couldn't even wrap their arms around it. It was awesome.
Watch a strongman do it, and it looks like a little bit of like a little volleyball. But if you watch someone that's 6 foot max, most of these guys are like 5'10", 5'11". Like Medeiros is not a tall person, and he was able to have that really cool technique. Yeah. And he had no problem with it.
Yeah, he was one of the guys who was
hoping someone would get it.
He was one of the guys carrying it long ways onto his lap and then doing the rolling it up his chest and then rotating it, which looked really awkward to pick up, but it worked for him.
Yeah, like I think as soon as if he was able to pick that up and put it into his lap, he would have had it for sure. It's just the deadlift to get to his lap. And I think that's how the strongmen do it too. So I think there wasn't many of them that looked like they were taught how to do it, but it definitely did seem like himself, Fikowski, Danny, they all had some sort of technique that was a bit better than the others.
Now I will say also, I know that Justin and Mal, when they were earlier training together with Matt, they had what's his name, Rob Kearney, I think, who's a strongman, come and do like a 3-day session with them. So it's like obviously this is another part of the game that Matt made sure that they had at least some experience in. Like he kind of knew this was coming. It was amazing.
Yeah, for sure. Before we jump to the guys, 2 more athletes. Cara Saunders, I had her on I think 4th, which was probably a little bit of a hot take, but and she finished 7th. She came back pretty good. She looked pretty solid.
She did look solid. And having her kid there for so many of the events, I thought that was a nice touch. It's really cool to see her.
And then the other one, Danielle Brennan, like she came in with a huge spotlight on her, 4th. I think that's pretty good.
I think it's good. Were you not surprised? I think she needs work, not in the gym, but just in some of her other stuff. She did not take some of the things that were happening to her well. You saw her getting pretty lippy with some of the judges. And there was one event, I'm trying to remember what it was. Oh, it was the crossovers on the skipping. And you could see her mouthing, like, with some pretty colorful language to the judges about why they're not counting her reps and what the hell and how stupid this is. And I feel like her attitude definitely goes on a bit of a roller coaster ride over these weekends. And I think that's
what they've always said. That's her brand though, right? That's what Cutler's always said. Like, she's continuing to learn both. I think I like it. I think that's why she's edgy. I like it. Yes, she's kind of like the John Rahm in golf a few years ago.
Yeah.
She's got a little edge to her. Like even that last event with the front squats and deadlifts, like she tried it and the judge no repped her and she's like she nodded like, yeah, I know that. Like I realize that. And it's just like, well, he's just doing his job, right? Like she's the one person that's just going to be confrontational, but I love it. I think it brings a cool little edge. She might play the villain sometimes. I think she did a pretty good weekend. I wasn't exactly sure, from a power output. Like I think some of the events that she didn't do good, but I think she was right there in almost all events. I expected more of certain events, but
I think she was kind of where we thought she was going to be. I think I had her in 5th when we were talking about that, and she finished up where she did in 4th. I thought she was good. She was consistent all weekend, but yeah, I just feel like there's times where when you're talking that the yoke event, as soon as she missed one, you see her, she just goes and stood and leaned against the yoke, not even willing to try, and just was waiting for the time to expire. And you'd like to see some of these athletes be like, I'm going to actually do this for the people here watching. But she's like, I don't care. I'm not doing this. And just stood off to the side.
Yeah, for sure. Before we get to the guys, anything left for the ladies?
No, I feel like we've talked about most of the people. But yeah, like the young people, great. Jacqueline Dahlstrom Saturday night, awesome. And Gabby Magala I think is going to be a top 3, top 4 next year for sure.
Yeah, man, I had her in my top 5. I was talking a lot about her in the last episode.
Yes.
I think she's going to be a huge player in the next few years. Let's switch over to the men's side. Medeiros makes it 2 years in a row, gets the win again. And the guy he's won one event in 2 years. How's he do it?
He wins competitions.
Yeah.
That's it. I feel like he's just always there. And he really does rise to the moment, right? Like, I think there's events where he is performing out of his shoes just because he knows he has to. Like the sandbag event, you didn't expect that to happen. And there he was. He just finds a way to be there for those things, right? So I'm impressed. I thought there was a chance that he might not win. And then we saw there was a very close second place finisher with, I think, the person who actually won the weekend, which was Roman Krenikov. What a weekend for this guy. We were expecting some fireworks. He was everything. He did everything well. Every single event, he was somewhere there. It was amazing.
Yeah, what a story.
I don't know what else to say. I feel like he won the weekend. If you said who got the most out of the weekend, Roman Krenikov got the most. He got his visa now for 5 more years to stay in the United States. He met his son for the first time. His wife is over here. Like, it was literally every single part of it. What a story. And he performed up to the moment. It was wildly entertaining. He looked like he enjoyed the moment. He was happy the whole weekend. I just loved it. And now I'm interested to know, who's he going to train with now that he's here in America full time? Who's going to gobble up this time? He has an American coach that I remember him from back in the day. He was on some Brooke Entz and Buttery Bro episodes. I forget what his name is. But yeah, does he go to training camp? Who knows? But like, yeah, it was cool because the crowd was with him the whole weekend. He was interacting with the crowd. I mean, I don't know. Like I know you expected him to do this good. I didn't expect him to get second. I did not expect that. I thought he'd come and make a splash. I wasn't sure if he'd be able to manage the whole weekend, but like, man, he was right there. It was awesome.
Really awesome.
I had him in 4th. I didn't expect him to be like this. Every single event, it was like, and Roman's out front. He was out front so many times this weekend, and he might not have won every single one of them, but it was unbelievable. Everything, you're like, oh, a different kind of test. Now it's strength. Now it's endurance. Now every single one, he was there.
And taking two first place. Yeah, 2 first place. And his worst finish was 13th on the sandbag ladder. Yeah, 13th was his lowest finish at 320 pounds on the sandbag, and he didn't do so great in the tiebreaker. So like, he crushed it. What a great weekend! And I mean, having him and Ricky being in the entire conversation of the entire weekend, you know, what sort of like complete dark horses, right? Like the 2 guys with such a backstory, and you haven't seen them for so long, and they're in the conversation all week. You know, we're not talking about Vellner, we're not talking about BKG, we're not talking about Guy. We're talking about 2 guys that have been in the shadows, and they just come out and just like steal the show.
Yeah. And I will say, Ricky, I started the weekend just being like, I don't want this guy to win. I didn't like the way he was wearing the leader's jersey. He just was a bit too big for his own good. He did look like he faded, and the only thing that got him was the volume of work over the weekend. Other than that, I think he was going to win those games. He was amazing. He really was so impressive all weekend long. And I kept thinking, oh, here's this event. He's not a huge guy. He'll struggle here with the implementer, the capital. Watching the capital, I was like, okay, he's finally going to struggle a little bit here. And he still didn't. It was amazing. I don't know what this guy's doing for training, but he seemed to have all the bases covered, just like Roman. And again, that's why I don't know how Justin squeaked this out just by kind of being close to them all weekend, right?
Yeah, Ricky did great. Ricky, I would agree. I was worried for a minute he was going to win.
I was worried he was going to win because I thought, this doesn't look good. No. You know, you have a 5-year ban from the sport, and you come back and dominate. Like, it looked like he was going to dominate even through kind of Friday night. It looked like he was just going to walk away with this. But
yeah, I was a little bit worried for the sport.
The men's competition was good, but the story really was those 3 guys. Guy Medeiros got his moments with some of the strength parts.
I was a little
underwhelmed.
I thought he'd come in a little bit hotter, and
me too.
Like, you know, knowing him and his year that he had his 15 minutes of fame last year, and I thought he'd come in and steal the show. But like, you know, the first few days he was like 24th, 36th, 30th. Like, he was the bottom of the barrel until like the last day. I mean, that one, the snatch event, the DB snatches, that was impressive. But I thought he'd do good. I thought he'd do good on the shuttle to overhead. I thought he'd be crushing that. But yeah, underwhelmed.
The 100-pound DBs he did make look like pool noodles. It was wild.
It was pretty insane.
He drops into an absolutely perfect bottom position, which we know is so hard to do with a single dumbbell overhead, and just was popping those. It was crazy. Yeah. That was really amazing. Another guy I want to say, Lazar Dukic, I knew he was going to be good. And I think he looked like he went out a little hot in a few events because he was right at the front and then he'd fade in the last couple minutes of an event. But I think he's another guy moving forward who's going to, be a top 5er for a couple more years.
Yeah. I was underwhelmed. I think with the girls' competition is always more exciting for whatever reason, right? And
yeah,
the guys, I had high hopes this year that'd be more exciting. I did find it a little bit more exciting because the 3 guys at the top. But I was a little bit underwhelmed by a bunch of athletes like Lazar,
Vellner.
Like, gosh, I mean, Vellner. It's too bad. He just in events that we wouldn't expect him to not do good in, right? Like, it was like sure the endurance and the swimming events, but then like just some of the events were just like, oh man, like the shuttle to overhead when they failed those jerks. It was like, oh no. Yeah. It's like, please, like.
And that's it. I don't know how much longer he's going to do this.
He was never in it. He was never
never in it
to win, which was like
no,
really unfortunate because it's always fun to see him. I mean, when he won that event and he kind of was playing up to the crowd, like that was awesome. The swagger was awesome. But it's like we didn't have enough moments like that to really enjoy, you know, what Valny brings to the table, right? It's just like, man, it's just unfortunate because he is awesome to watch. But like Saxon, like some of these guys that I thought were going to be there, I mean, Fikowski, like they've taken, like this was just not a good games for them overall. Like
Fikowski at least had a bit of a bounce back, right? Because he didn't even make it last year. And then this year he came back and I thought he had his couple moments where you're like, oh, I guess he still has some relevance. But I think, you know who I really liked? And I can't remember his name now, which isn't great podcasting, but the young Italian guy, the young Italian kid who...
Zenonia, Enrico.
Yeah. Like he had his little flashes, especially with the wall facing handstand push-ups where he just went through that no problem. He looks good, honestly. I feel like he's a guy who you're going to see more of next year.
For sure.
He looks like he's got a good little package together there that I think a little more work and he's going to be someone.
Yeah, for sure. I think for our leaderboard with the guys, I think we were much further off. Like I had guys like BKG. I mean, I'd add Adler, and Adler had a great weekend. Love seeing him. Like he had a great, like I thought he did fantastic. Adler, is he the new Canadian? Maybe.
I think maybe, yeah.
He's the new guy to take over.
But even you said BKG. We're just like, oh, BKG. But if you look at the top 10, BKG is still in the top 10, right? Like the top 10 ended up being Medeiros, Krenikov, Gerard, Sam Quant.
Benny B.
I did not have him. I did not have him on my bingo card. That's for sure.
And I think
that was a shock.
I think Hopper should be pretty happy with his placing too.
Yeah, Hopper, I think was really actually pretty good. He had a good weekend. We say Vellner did finish sixth,
but that's
which I know I kind of.
That's a struggle. Like I think most people will say that when he's out. Like I don't think he's ever placed outside the podium. Like I think every year he's taken second or third. And same with Fikowski. I think Fikowski might have missed podium once. Like, and he, like, you know, like I know I think maybe the men's are just getting more competitive. I mean, again, not many of the guys won more than 2 events, right? Justin doesn't even win an event.
Right.
You know, Krenikov wins 2. Ricky wins 2, I think. Quant doesn't win any. Adler wins 2. You know, so some of these guys, it's crazy comp.
Speaking of Benny B, I felt like Amanda Barnhart showed well. I think I know we're jumping back to the women's, but Benny B's athletes, Quant and Barnhart. Like Amanda, I just thought, you know, she's getting to the point where maybe she's going to, you know, disappear a little bit from the sport, but she still had her moments and she is a well-rounded athlete as well. But I didn't want to jump back to the girls. That came to mind.
I think everyone's turned their eye off of comp train. I mean, Benny B, he had a lot of attention when he had Fraser, then he had a lot of attention when he had Katrin, and then he started growing the comp train camp. And that was one of the first sort of camps that were around. And then obviously Katrin leaves and a few people sort of disband. Brooke Wells leaves. Yeah. And now it's kind of like you got Chandler Smith, Brooke Wells, and Sam Quant. And they're not really flashy athletes, kind of like Katrin and Brooke were. So it's like people kind of just ignore them. But Sam Quant put up a decent weekend. Amanda Barnhart put up a decent. They're just consistent, right? They're just. It's like the conversation I had this weekend was like, you know, it's just consistent athletes. If you're in the top 10 in this sport, you are an elite level sport. Like you're an elite level. Like you don't need to win. Yeah. You don't need to be in the games to win. Yeah. Like Scott Panchik, for all those years, he is an elite level CrossFitter. He never once won.
Right.
Never once. BKG, he's always there. I think Hopper is going to be one of those athletes where he's just kind of like
there.
He's never going to win, but he's always going to be there.
Yeah.
Sam Quant, same kind of idea.
Hopper went over with Fraser, didn't he? He was with HWPO by then.
MML or Fraser. Yeah.
I thought Hopper had a great bounce back year, considering we talked about him on the other podcast, how he had that moment. It looked like, oh, look at this guy. And then last year he really faltered. And then this year I thought, you know, he was there. He was around.
Yeah, I think he lived up to expectations for sure. For sure. I wanted to ask you about your events.
Yes.
What did you think about the events and the overall test? What was your favorite event?
The Capitol is my favorite event. There's no doubt about it.
100%.
The Capitol was 100%. Epic viewing.
One of the top 5 best events of all time.
I've even put it top 3 all time. It was That was wild. I did not know what to expect. But when you watched the start with the pig flips, which I would love to know what the deadlift equivalent is of these pig flips, but when you see the numbers that those pigs were, I was like, I don't even know how impressive this is, but they seemed heavy. So they do 20 pig flips. Then you watch them run now. These are huge people who are just so muscular, and they're running really, really impressive 5.5 kilometer times. And Haley Adams looking like the cream of the crop when it comes to running. I thought she was going to run past every one of the males, which would have been awesome. But she was right there.
Yeah.
But then,
such a cool crossover event, right? When we have CrossFit Endurance. I love when they make these events happen, because it's like, this was the event that I talked to a few endurance guys, and they're just like, it's impressive. It's impressive seeing them run.
Yeah. And I loved how it was an open course. They talked about that on the broadcast, but you see them walking past just your regular Wisconsinites who just were out for their morning jog, and then all these like tarps off people are just running by. But then watching them then struggle with the groceries with the big bags that they picked up first down the street was unbelievable, knowing what that would do to devastate your grip. And the fact that it's kind of like a farmer's carry, but when you're holding a handle like that, I feel like it's even more on your grip. Torture. And then oh my gosh, that thing was carnage.
Bodies hit the floor.
Carnage.
I loved it.
It was unbelievable.
Finally.
I didn't hear many of the athletes talking about it, but I think that would have devastated them for a lot of the weekend, that event alone.
Yeah, I think this week when we hear about sort of the podcasts and the different interviews, I think that's going to be the highlight. I think it's a no-brainer that was just entertaining, the carnage. Like, we love seeing athletes struggle, and that was a struggle bus up those stairs. That was insane.
And it's that one detail. Having it the stairs was, as far as a spectacle, was amazing. It looked great on TV, but adding that last thing, and that's what broke them, right? The thing that broke them was when he said, okay, now you got to switch the sandbag to in front of you, carry it on your chest, and walk up these stairs. And it's
49 stairs.
And it seemed like Bozman's whole idea, when you look at it, we knew that he was talking a lot about going back to the basics, all the basic movements, but you could see he's like, all right, people carry groceries, so let's make really heavy bags of groceries. People have to carry soil into their backyard to do a top dressing on their lawn. Let's make the bags of soil really 200-pound cheese slices. People have to walk up staircase. Like, so many of the details he put into this weekend, I feel like could have been related back to the whole heart of CrossFit, which is functional fitness. And a lot of the movements were functional movements, just to extreme ends of the weight variance, I guess.
Yeah, by far the best event, and it was a great event to broadcast. It was exciting. Going back to what you said before, they do need to fix the broadcast for sure. They need to figure out a way to show more athletes. That event is great because you got to see every single athlete cross the finish line. Like, you got to see it. And it was cool having both the men and females goes in the same time.
That was amazing.
That was super cool.
Great.
So many different storylines happening at the same time. You're just like telling Haley to get your ass up, get up. And they're just struggling so much, but people are passing them. It was just epic. Yeah. An epic workout.
I also loved when you watch some of the athletes when they almost like old WWE wrestling, where the referee would turn their back and they'd get the steel chair and smash it over the head. Where with these guys, when the judges would turn their back, they were putting the sandbag down on the ledge, like the side instead of the ground, and then getting busted for that. But these athletes were desperate for Haley Adams was heartbreaking watching, and you're like, you have literally 7 steps left. Just get up these stairs.
But I don't think us weekend warriors will ever understand what max failure means. Like,
no,
she was up to the point where she probably couldn't even squeeze like an egg.
No, I bet you're right.
Or a piece of bread. Like she was just, and I don't think we'll ever understand that.
No, I would love to hear her take on that, actually.
Yeah, can't wait. What was your worst event? Most disliked event.
Most disliked
or
event.
just event you just wish was,
honestly. The handstand one where they were doing the wall facing handstands, there was too much variance in the judging. Like, we were watching live on the stream, some people getting no reps and looking like they got to depth, and then other people clearly not getting to depth, or their bun or their ponytails are getting to depth but not their head. And I think the problem is with judges, they are human beings and they're doing the best they can, and some of them, don't want to be the reason why these athletes fail, where other people have no problem calling them on their reps or their no reps. So I thought that was my one complaint, was a few of the events left a bit too much up to the judges to decide on things, where I think you need the standards that are easier to be clear yes or clear no reps.
Yeah, that one will be talked about for sure. Hillerfit is just waiting, salivating, trying to get that for sure.
Yeah. What about you? What was we didn't say your favorite moment? You said Capital. What was your one that you didn't like?
Capital for sure. I have two that I have a beef with. The skill speed medley, I think was such an amped up event with the single unders and then the just quick race, and then it was so amped, and then they get to the very final round with a great spread of athletes, and it was the double under crossover, and they just looked silly. I wish it was either triple unders or heavy double under rope, and made the handstand course more exciting. Like, get them there, get them racing on their hands. I would have thought that would have been one of probably the best event of the weekend if they were able to do that.
Yeah, the L-sit into a handstand. I wanted to see people do L-sits into a handstand. I wanted to see them all try, right? And
yeah, you want to see a race and having them sit like that and then race through that, because I think there would have been mistakes. It was unfortunate that double under crossover thing got in the way. I just didn't like that. Yeah. So, but the one I was really hoping to watch, really like, was the shuttle overhead. Yeah. Which was the 400 meters and then
max jerks,
very heavy jerks, and then 600, 800. That's a really cool event. Still a really cool event, but the broadcasting let that down for sure. Yeah, you couldn't tell. You wanted to see a whole bunch of people lift these jerks. They got to figure out a way, because it's like I think that's a really cool test. Like, being able to run 400 meters in 2 minutes and then get max jerks at 200 pounds for the ladies and 300 pounds for the girls.
Yeah, for the guys.
That's insane.
Yeah, it is crazy.
Insane.
Even when you see the distances, like an 800 meter on a track, like for even really fast track athletes, you're running a minute 55 seconds. These are track athletes. So now we're talking about CrossFit athletes. They're running a lap in a minute 5, a minute 10, maybe a little slower. So in a 4-minute window to run 800 meters, which is going to take them 240, and they're going to be zapped to now jerk this barbell under fatigue. I thought the potential was great. Again, like I said, I think they could do something to make the broadcast more user-friendly by allowing us, the viewer, to choose who we want to watch. I don't think that would be too difficult.
That's the coolest test, I think. Like you just said, like, that's insane. Like, I know a running background, but like, again, for endurance people to watch that and say like, holy shit. Like, and all of a sudden the guys have to put 300 pounds in their front rack. Like, yeah. Can you even imagine like, it's just like the amount of like, oh man, it's just nuts. It's just nuts that you have to do that to your body.
Yeah.
You're just gasping for air.
Another one I liked up and over, where it was the 3 different up and over implements, where it's first cool. The log, and then it was the tall box jump, which I think for the men, it looked like they got the height right, because it looked like a struggle. For the women, it looked like maybe they needed a few more inches of height on the box, because
they're the same height.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, most of the ladies are the same height as most of the guys. There's a few outliers.
Yeah, sure. I just thought they could. It looked a bit too easy for some of them. But like, again, I feel like this is Bozman's first time doing it. I think he'll iron out some of these wrinkles and some of these judging parts. But I honestly, I thought it was great. I've watched every year for the last, 6 or 7 years, and I've seen lots of footage from the old stuff. This was the most exciting watch this whole weekend for sure.
Yeah. Final thoughts. We'll wrap it up. Any sort of final hot takes, final thoughts?
No, I feel like one hot take, I'll probably end up buying a pair of those TYR shoes. They were sweet all over the weekend. I love the looks of those. Okay. Hot take. Maybe Castro was never good at programming when you see how it can really be. Get out of here.
So listen, there's going to be a ton of talk, and there was a ton of talk about Bozman. Bozman worked so closely with Castro. I have to assume most of these events, they thought of them together at some point in the past few years, and he picked from them. I don't think he went brand new and just decided all this sort of stuff. I think Bozman is the perfect person to do it outside of Castro. he put his own little spin on it for sure.
Yeah.
Like he put some gymnastics in it. It was very fundamental fitness test, which was kind of cool. I think he's a great ambassador. He didn't take the attention like Castro does.
No, he didn't.
Even though I don't think Castro wants the attention, I think he's just been put in that spot.
Yeah.
I think it's good. The sport is in good hands, I think.
Yeah. There's no footage of Bozman doing the pre-event thing being like, you are going to be scared for your life. Remember, there's like footage of Castro trying to put on the show. Like,
and when he announces the winners, he's like taking a pause, like reality TV show.
Where
like,
Bozman.
Boz just gets out there, says the name.
Yeah, I just think no last takeaway. Honestly, congratulations to all the people, all the athletes out there. And again, we talked about her, and I know that you're going to probably have a conversation with her on here. But Emma, amazing performance. We are so proud in Waterloo, Kitchener area, and you made you made a lot of new young fans. That's for sure.
Couldn't say it better myself.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks everyone for listening. This was a fun, quick episode. Talk to you next time. Bye.